Hey guys, welcome to the Streams of Income radio show. I'm your host, Ryan Rieger, and man, I'm excited about this one because this is one of my, guys, honestly, one of my favorite people in the whole world, Christie Hertzler. And she lives in Pennsylvania, has become one of my best friends. I guess I can say that you are a student, we're a student. I don't feel like you're really a student anymore. I learned from you just as much as you learned from me.
Always a student.
But she sells on Amazon, but guys, she does so much more than that. This episode, in my mind, is about destroying your excuses. If there is a person who has an excuse or excuses to say why business wouldn't work, why selling on Amazon wouldn't work, Christie is the person for that. And no one would fault you, Christie, if you said, you know what, I just can't do this. I got too many things to deal with. And nobody would think that was a bad thing, but you've pushed past that, pushed past those challenges, overcome those obstacles. And honestly, I'm just so crazy proud of you for it. And it's an honor to serve alongside you in the Legends group that we serve together. And thanks for being on my show.
I'm so excited here. And I'd say ditto to everything that you just said. I will say, I think that we're always students though in life. Isn't that true? And
so true.
I'm happy to be in that role, student. I learn so much every day. And I'm just, I'm so grateful for your friendship. Very much so.
Yeah. Well, don't start crying on the show. So
I will,
No, it's okay. We're going to be real here around here, guys. No, Christie's a good friend, but she has an awesome story. So I'll let her tell it. So Christie, tell us about whatever you were chatting before we got on here.
Sure.
Obviously it starts with family for you, but also get into how you even started. Where did you get the idea of starting a business, and what's your business look like?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, really, because I'm going to take everybody kind of a little bit further back.
Sure.
And you might be sitting here going, okay, what does this have to do with anything that you're talking about? But it's really the foundation of where everything goes from there, and I think that's why it's so important. But for me, it really starts with family. You know, the reason that all of the things that we're going to be talking about are in place are because of my family. And so that's where it always has to start. So, because they are really the reason I do what I do. Yeah. And they are the most important thing in my world. I've been married for 35 years to my very best friend, and it sounds like such a cliche, but it's true. And I'm so grateful for him and for everything that he and I do together. It's wonderful. We have 4 children. We have 3 children at heart. That's what I call our married children. I instead of the in-law, they're my children in heart, because they're just as much my children as the one that I bore. And so I love them just totally. They're just awesome. And you know this, I have 2 grandbabies that are my world. My granddaughter, I want to have marry your son. So we talked about this, and it's like, yes, we want this to happen.
Have an arranged marriage.
Talk about this. I have an arranged marriage, and it's arranged already. But you know, they are really my world, and they're my foundation. And there's a reason I start with that when I talk about my story, because I think it's super important for all of us to have some source or place that, you know, we hear this all the time. What's your why?
Yes,
you know, what's your why? And for me, that's my why. You know, my family is everything to me. You know, I have, you know, God, of course, is first in our life, and then family. And I try and keep that, you know, keep that. So when my kids were small, I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. You know, not everybody wants to be a stay-at-home mom. That's fine. But for me, that was what I really wanted. You know, I grew up in a family environment that was, you know, was a little atypical, in that I wanted to have a marriage and raise my children in a way that was different than the way that I was raised. I'm sure that there are people that can resonate with that. And it's not because my parents were bad parents. They had a different set of tools. And they did the best that they could with the tools that they have. It's just that I wanted different tools. And so, you know, for me, being a stay-at-home mom was something that was super important to me. But Dan, my husband, he worked for a church organization, and we loved what we did. We loved working for the church, but we didn't make a lot of money. We were pretty poor. And so wanting to be a stay-at-home mom and working in a situation like, you know, where you're not having a lot of income come in, you have to kind of be creative sometimes.
That's right.
You know, about what you're doing. So I started looking for opportunities that would allow me to be a stay-at-home mom. And so I started a lot of men too, not just women, but a lot of women can probably relate to this with party plan companies, even network marketing. You know, we won't talk about how old I am, but a lot of you will understand and relate just based on that. And then when my kids are older, I got into real estate and did really well with that. I loved it. I'm a teacher and an educator at heart. And so I loved working with first-time home buyers and being able to teach them the process and help them to not get overwhelmed or, you know, sometimes people can put dollar signs on your head, and I didn't want to be that. And so I did really well in real estate as a real estate agent. And then in 1999, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And, you know, a lot of times I get the, oh, I'm so sorry. You know, oh, that must have been hard. And yeah, it was, but to be honest, it's, and this is we're going to talk about mindset after a while, but this is one of those things, you know, for me, it was like, okay, I had these symptoms. I didn't know what was going on. And now at least I know what I'm doing and what I'm dealing with.
Right.
And once I know what I'm dealing with, then the next logical step for me is, okay, what do I do about it? You know, what can I do? And so it wasn't like, you know, a death sentence or anything like that, but it was definitely a challenge. And I did actually pretty well with my MS until about 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I had a really major relapse, and it was when I was working in real estate. It was just kind of the start of the market crash. And I also had a physical crash, and literally went from one day in a 24-hour period not being able to work at all.
Oh my gosh.
You know, and not being able to function really. And pretty much lost my income overnight. And so, you know, as much as anybody thinks that you can prepare for that, and we thought that we did, it's, you know, when you lose a 6-figure income overnight, it's a challenge.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes.
It can be hard. And so we had some difficult times and some difficult struggles after that. You know, we had to sell our house on a short sale. We actually had a car that was repossessed because we tried to do all of the things right. So we went to the company. It's like, I'm not going to bash any car manufacturers here, but it's like, hey, you know what? We'll trade our car back in and we'll get something cheaper. We just want to be able to honor our commitment. And they were like, you know, the car was worth like a third of what we still owed on it was all they would give us for it, and those types of things. So it was tough. You know, it was a really tough time. And so it was in the midst of all of that, that, you know, I got to understand how being strong and understanding the importance of mindset and understanding the importance of faith, you know, real faith. Those are all things that kind of came into play at that time.
Your faith was tested at that time.
It was, you know, it was. But, you know, I say this a lot of times. I could have gotten hit by a bus, you know.
That's right. That's right.
We all have our challenges, you know. You can't really compare yourself, the level of your challenge to other people, because, you know, we all have our challenges, but it's what you do with that and what you take from it that, you know, is kind of the important thing. So, so that's a little bit about background stuff.
Yeah. So we got about a minute and a half left in this segment. How'd you find the Amazon opportunity? After you quit, you have to basically lay down real estate. What was your first entrance into a business?
Well, here you go now, and we'll probably move this in a second too, because this is kind of funny, because so it was in 2015 actually, and I learned that I had what it's called JCV, which is John Cunningham virus, and when you have multiple sclerosis and take certain medications, it puts you at really high risk of a brain disease, which is fatal often. And has a median life expectancy of about 6 months. So,
oh my gosh.
So what did I try to do? I decided that that's when I would launch a business. And that was when I first walked into the Amazon world, and we can certainly talk about that more.
Yeah, in 2015. So you've been doing it for about 4 years now, and
yep.
Yeah. So guys, for those of you who are unfamiliar with all the Amazon stuff, she's built a significant business. She has what we call replens where, and other things that she sells too, where she sells, her business has a foundation of items that sell over and over again every month that she can count on. And it's just a more stable, solid, better business model long term. So we'll dig into that, dig into mindset, which is her topic that she loves to tell people about, loves to encourage folks. So guys, this is the episode to destroy any excuses for you guys starting your business or doing whatever God's called you to do in life. Remember, this is Ryan Rieger with Streams of Income Radio. We'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back to the Streams of Income Radio Show. I'm your host, Ryan Rieger. We're chatting with my good friend, Christie Hertzler. Like I said, the first segment, one of my favorite people in all the world, just has a servant's heart and is doing some awesome things in her Amazon business, teaching others how to do it, teaching others how to, she's a coach now with the topic of having a good mindset. And even if you're not selling on Amazon, have no desire to, this is an episode that you can listen to and gain tremendous value from, because having a good mindset's going to serve you well in every area of your life and every relationship that you have. So listen into this episode, especially because mindset's important. Real quick, I forgot to mention the first episode or first segment. You can get my book, Streams of Income, for free at streamsofincomeradio.com. Any link that we mention on this episode, you'll be able to see those, and also you listen to all the past episodes on demand, because this show is also a podcast. So Christie, let's go back to 2015 where we left off. You kind of entered into an Amazon business. You were talking about JCV. Explain that again, and just how that affected everything you were doing.
Yeah, and it's actually, this is really important as it comes to mindset too, because you really have to understand a little bit about how my view is on mindset to understand why this is even a good idea. So I started out 2015. I'd been sick for probably I was diagnosed with MS in 1999. I've certainly had remissions and relapse and those periods of time, but I've had a lot of difficulty for about 12 months or so, and going through a lot of testing, and found out that I was positive for JCV, which is a John Cunningham virus, which is actually a relatively common virus, but it affects people with compromised immune systems in different ways. Because of that and the medications that I was taking, I was at high risk for a brain disease called PML, which is often fatal and has a life expectancy of a median of about 6 months. Wow. So I'm at high risk for that because of being positive for JCV, and because my immune system is so compromised with my MS. And so, I found that out. And again, it was the same reason that I talked about in our first segment there. When I found out I had MS, it's like, you can take it that and you can think, oh, my lands, my life is over, or you can say, okay, now I know what I have. Now I know what I am dealing with, and what do I do about it?
Right.
And so that was kind of my perspective. It's like, I can't really change anything about what that is. But I can change what I do about it and how I spend my life. And so for me, it became apparent to me that, this thing that we often assume, that life is long and we'll have all this time to do things. It doesn't always happen that way, not for everybody. And so I wanted to have a couple of things that changed in my life. And one of those was to be able to create a source of income that would take pressure off my husband, and that also would be something that could be a legacy for him and my grandchildren and my children. If it was a situation where PML would show up, or like I said, or I got hit by a bus, we don't know what life is going to bring for us. And so in mid-August of 2015, I was introduced to this whole idea of Amazon FBA, which is fulfillment by Amazon. And it's a way for small mom and pop places like me, or just regular everyday people, to partner with Amazon and sell products for profit. And so I was introduced to this, and it's like, most people would be like, oh, well, that sometimes requires, especially when you stop going out and shopping with a lot of people around, which I have to avoid. And sometimes during the Christmas season, being super busy where you don't get much sleep, which is something I have to avoid. And all of these things, like, this is a perfect time to start a business, but that's what I did. And so mindset's pretty important. So I started in mid-August of 2015, and I really just wanted to earn an extra $500 for Christmas. That was really my goal.
Yep.
And there were two things really. I wanted to, it's like it seemed too good to be true. And it's like, will this really do what they say it's going to do? And then it did. And I ended up selling close to $30,000 in sales, gross sales, by the end of December of that year.
That's awesome.
Really not knowing exactly what I was doing. And so we started to look at it a little bit more seriously. And so it's like, okay, this is something that really can do what we wanted it to do. It really can leave a legacy. And so that's how we started. And again, that was mid August of 2015. And since then, we've built up a fairly, I would say, a very strong and stable business of replenishable items.
Right.
That just means that we sell a lot of the same products month after month after month. And I don't have to go out and just be searching for new things to send in to Amazon. So I do the replenishables. If you didn't hear the podcast that Ryan did with Jimmy and Brittany Smith, please go back and listen to that, because it'll be awesome. Actually, listen to all the podcasts. And I'm not just saying that because Ryan is my friend. It's because I know his heart, and I know they'll be good. But I knew that God had a plan for me. And so I just continued on with that process, started doing, like I said, the Amazon fulfillment by Amazon. And then I also got into the print on demand aspect of Amazon, which is their merch by Amazon. And then also opened an Etsy store. And those are all ways that, as Jim Cochran talks about on the podcast that you did with him, we wanted to go an inch deep and a mile wide with what we were doing in our business. And so that's what we've done. And we just continued to grow that. I have moved a lot more into coaching in the last year.
Which is your sweet spot.
It is my sweet spot. It really is.
Yeah.
I know that I love people, and I love helping people. And I feel like that's the way that I can be best serving them. You've been a great encouragement to me in that. And I just really feel like that God has called me to be in that direction. It feels very good for me. So, currently, as far as health risk goes, if everybody, talked about all these terrible things, I'm in good shape. I'm diligent about listening to my body. Risk is always there, but let's mention the bus again. So is everything else. And I can live my life in fear. All of us can. Think this to yourself as well. You can live your life in fear, or you can live it in faith. And it's important to understand that if you live your life in faith, it's a much happier place to be. So that's a little bit of what my business looks
good.
like.
We could go a bunch of different directions, guys. We're definitely going to unpack how she became a coach, because I know there's a lot of you that can do that too. Maybe that's on your heart. You have something that people are coming to you, asking you questions about all the time. That would be a great topic for you to start thinking about. Well, man, I'm getting all these questions about health and fitness. Everybody's asking me how I lost 50 pounds and kept it off, or whatever the topic is for you. That could be something that you could launch a coaching business. So we'll dig into that. We want to say real quickly with this replenishable idea, for some of you maybe that haven't heard that term before, especially if you're not selling on Amazon currently. She mentioned Jimmy and Brittany Smith, their episode number 3 of my podcast. They sell over 100,000 per month in replens. And these are items, as opposed to items like going to a store. You could go to stores and hunt for clearance items and get some tremendous deals, going to garage sales, thrift stores, great deals there. But that's not a business model that fits into what Christie is trying to do health-wise. And so she is doing what we call replenishables. These are items that sell over and over again, and she can pretty much count on them. That doesn't mean that, she's always looking for new ones. Yeah. But she has that stable base of products that she knows is going to sell. So instead of going into a store looking for products and it's like a treasure hunt, she's actually going in like with a shopping list. She's going in with, I know I need to replenish these items here, versus I'm going in, I have no idea what I'm looking for. Let's just hit the clearance aisle. That's more of a hustle. Nothing wrong with that. People do really well with that. But just know that starting an Amazon business, it could be there's so many different ways to do this.
So many.
you've done it in a way that works really, really well, and it jives with what you're trying to accomplish with your health. So, wow, good stuff. We got about a minute and a half left. Let's importance of mindset. I don't think we can dive into that in a minute and a half, but I mean, I guess just any words of wisdom for somebody that's listening right now that's dealing with something in their life, and we can chat with them again. We got a minute and 15 seconds.
Yep.
Give somebody a boost that's listening to you right now that feels like they're stuck.
You know what? If you're stuck, don't bring that old story into your life. You know, if you feel like you're in a place where you are in a rut or you're stuck, I need you to understand that that's a story that you're telling yourself. And the best thing that you can do is change that story. And changing that story means deciding right now that's not going to be what your future is, and then taking the steps to do it. You know, we have control. You know,
Right.
We really have control over what happens in our life. Don't sit there and allow life to happen to you. You need to make sure that you're going out and make life happen in the way that you want it to be.
That's so good. So true, guys. She's somebody that does it all the time. Like we said in the first segment, Christy, you could totally just sit at home and basically just watch TV and nobody would blame you because of what you're going through. But you've decided, you know what, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue to live life, and you're killing it. And I'm so proud of you. So guys, we got 2 more episodes 2 more segments with Christy. Excited about that. You're listening to Streams of Income Radio. I'm your host, Ryan Rieger. We'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back to the Streams of Income Radio Show. I'm your host, Ryan Rieger. Really excited to continue the conversation with Christy Hertzler. We're talking about mindset, how important that is. Talked about some of the health issues that she has struggled with and has overcome and is still overcoming in her life. So many things we could unpack here. Real quick, don't forget you can grab my book, Streams of Income, for free at streamsofincomeradio.com, along with all of the show notes. All the past episodes. We've mentioned some past episodes already here that kind of tie into what Christy's talking about. But Christy, let's talk more about your coaching business. So you started in Amazon, you're doing really well, have done really well, continue to do really well.
Yep.
But we talked about the sweet spot of you're a coach, you love people, you love to encourage people. So guys, listen up here. If you feel like you have a teacher's heart, you love to help people, just know that you could be a coach in that topic. So we'll dig into that. Like, how do you even decide what topic that is? So let's talk about that here in a second. But how did you transition from Amazon? You're doing Amazon, you're selling on Amazon, to like, hey, you know what? I think I should be a coach. You know what? It should be about mindset. So those are 2 different questions there. So how did you transition into being a coach, and what's that look like?
Yeah, you know, and we talked about this before, and we talk about this a lot when we talk with people, but, you know, it's not about letting go of everything that I've built. You know, we keep those pieces as part of our foundation. You know, this is our multiple income streams, and this is what you teach, Ryan, and it's something that people should really pay attention to. I talked about in the first segment here about how I lost my income overnight. You know, when you have multiple income streams, then you don't have to worry about that, you know, because you're having things that it's much more solid foundation. So that what we've done with Amazon and with merch and with Etsy have all those, we continue to do that. We built systems for that. But when it came down to it, I felt like I needed to do what God was calling me to do, and where our friend Dan Miller would call, where I needed to find my zone of genius.
Yes.
Dan Miller with the 48 Days Eagles community has been really instrumental with me, and you introduced me to them. It has been really instrumental in learning what I wanted to do. But I have always felt a really strong desire to serve people and to serve people well. And you've talked about this as well. You know, I came across scenarios often where it's like people were asking me for advice, or they were coming to me for solutions. And it's like, you know what, this is another avenue for me to be able to add multiple income streams to my household and serve people at the same time. And for me, when I put those 2 places together, that was what we would say, that was my sweet spot of feeling like I was I was doing what God was calling me to do and
Yeah.
still serving my family in the way that needed to be
Yeah.
served.
Yeah. And I know we've had these conversations too, like, you're serving people and also you're making an income from it.
Yeah.
And let's, and we could talk about that for a second here, because
Mm-hmm.
that is a challenge for you and I feel like in that same boat where we want to give away everything for free.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
love people. We love to help out, but we know that if we continue to do that, then, well, our spouses aren't going to be very happy. You're spending all this time helping people, are not making anything. Well, it's great to help out one or two people, but man, talk about that struggle. And with somebody who's thinking that, because Christie, I guarantee there's people listening right now that are already
Mm-hmm.
coaching folks. They're not getting an income from it. They'd love to learn how to make that transition to make it paid. So we plan on going this direction, but let's chat
Mm-hmm.
about that, the money
Sure.
mindset, and why making an income from it is not bad. And the fact it's a better thing. So how did you, I know we're
Yeah.
still overcoming this. This is something we both
Yes, we are.
struggle with,
Mm-hmm.
but let's chat about that. How I'm charging people to coach them. I'm helping them, but I'm charging them. So.
Yeah. It's interesting. And two things that I'll say is that you'll notice that when you were explaining that, another word that comes in consistently time after time after time is mindset.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many aspects of our lives that are influenced greatly by mindset, either positive or negative. And this is one of those as well,
Right.
and you were talking in this case about money mindset, for me, and yeah, you're right, Ryan, we are like two peas in a pod when it comes to this. I do feel like God called me to serve people. I do. And I feel that very strongly. But for me, in my mind, that meant that serving meant that I gave everything to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then I gave and I gave and I gave and I gave.
Mm-hmm.
And while I want to do that, I do desire to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the reality. The reality is that I still need to eat.
That's right. Yeah.
The reality is that if I do that, then my health suffers.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is that when I do that, my family suffers. And we talked in the first segment that that's the foundational piece of everything that I do, is that my family is first.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to come to a mindset place where I looked at it and thought, you know what? I'm actually being selfish by giving everything away. I know you can be out there saying, what?
Right.
What is she talking about? I was being selfish by giving things away. And I want to explain that. When you give everything away, there's a couple of things. First of all, the person that you're giving to, you're not empowering them in any way. When you're giving them everything rather than teaching them, it's not empowering them to learn any skill set. In addition to that, you are almost, in a way, this is going to sound so strange too, but in a way you are almost crushing them more than you're helping them, because you're not giving value to what you are giving. And in addition to that, for me personally, and I struggle with this, it's like, who am I to think that I have something of value that somebody should even pay money for? And yet the reality is that we all do. We all have knowledge. If someone is coming to you and they're asking you questions and they're asking for your advice, that means you have something of value to give them.
That's right.
And so it was a mindset shift for me. I really needed to understand that if I continue to give and continue to give, what's going to happen is that I'm going to stop giving, because I'm not going to be in a position to be able to do that to anybody.
Yeah.
And if I'm truly serving God well, I want to be able to serve as many people as possible. And for me, that means that I need to understand the value of what I am bringing. And I need to charge for that value. Charging for that value actually empowers the people that are paying for that value.
Yep.
And in addition to that, I'm not crushing their spirit by enabling them to be able to be someone that is constantly looking for handouts and for free things. And it was kind of a compilation of all of those things. And I continue to work on it. I'll be totally honest. Sure. I continue to work on it because, I want to help people. And it's hard sometimes for me to be able to say no to somebody. If it's when it comes to a matter of charging or not charging.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to go back to that place where I'm understanding that if I'm going to truly help as many people as possible, I need to feed my spirit and my body and my family first. Now, I want to be clear on a couple of things. That doesn't mean I want to have a house with gold faucets. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's your desire, that's fine. It's great,
Right.
but that's not my thing. I don't get, whatever the term is. And it's that I'm not motivated by that.
Sure.
So I'm not motivated by money. I'm really not. However, I have learned that money is not an evil thing.
Right.
I have learned that money is a necessary part of the process. And I've learned that if I continue to give without building this as a business, I won't be able to help anybody.
Oh, that's so good. If you don't treat it as a business, it'll just end up basically Jim Cockrum says it this way too. To continue to serve, I'm going to not say it exactly right, but
say it well enough.
To continue to serve people, you need to charge, and profit means that he doesn't have to ask or beg for donations to continue to serve people.
That's right.
So, gosh, that is so good. We could bottle up what you just said in the last 5 minutes, and that could be the podcast. And it's the right mindset about it. And we've also learned, Christie, that when you don't charge for something, the other person, you're actually doing your student a disservice because they're not taking it seriously enough. It's I've seen events where you don't charge for people to show up, and you give out tickets, but people don't show up to those events because they didn't pay anything. But even if you charge $10, well, they gave their hard-earned money. They're going to be in those seats. Most people don't pay a couple $100s to go to a Dallas Cowboys game and not show up for that. They gave up some serious income to be at that game, so they're going to be there. And so you are definitely doing your students, the people that you love and want to serve, a disservice if you do not charge something for that time that you invested in them. Besides, you could be taking that time of coaching and working on your Amazon business and be making a serious return. So something we both struggle with, but we're getting over it, aren't we?
It is. I think so. And I think that's to the good. It's to the betterment of the people around us. It truly is. And like I said, the people on your radio show here, they don't know me.
15 seconds left.
Yeah, they don't know me. And so they're not going to understand that yet. But I hope that they hear our hearts and what we're saying. And if you think to yourself, if you're thinking about coaching, I can't do that. I'm going to tell you right now, you can.
Yep, you absolutely can, guys. And we'll dig into that. We'll be right back. Guys, welcome back to the last segment of my radio show with Christie Hertzler. I'm your host, Ryan Rieger. You're listening to Streams of Income Radio. You can get my book, Streams of Income, for free at streamsofincomeradio.com. Christie, we've gone through, the time is flying, by the way. I need to have you on again to go further into this, but we talked about your Amazon business, how you've overcome and are overcoming. You're doing a great job of battling MS, and you don't let that stop you from creating an awesome business. You have a coaching business. So tell us about because there's so many topics. There's life coaches, health coaches, fitness coaches, business coaches, all kinds of coaches, sports coaches. How'd you pick your topic? What is it? And tell us about that topic.
Sure. I focus a lot on mindset. Mindset can kind of seem like a general overview term. As we discovered in our previous segments here, it really comes into play in almost everything that we do, and so for me, it was a natural progression. I grew up in a home, like I've shared before, I grew up in a home which wasn't the way that I wanted to choose to live my own personal life. And so from a very young age, I've worked on myself. I've worked on myself, and I've really dedicated time to changing my mindset so that I could understand how to live my life in a better way. And as I moved into my Amazon business and working with people in coaching, it just seems like every challenge, every roadblock, every thing that gets in your way that keeps you from going to where you want to be almost always comes down to the root cause of mindset. We might say that it's about finances, or we may say that it's about time, or we may say that it's about education. And those things can all come into play. But what really comes down to, the core piece, the root piece of it, is mindset. and where you take your thoughts.
Yeah.
And so, I wanted to go over just a couple of things.
Let's do it.
As far as how mindset can impact you, and just really give people some strategic things to do that can help encourage them to change their mindset or to work on their mindset. But that's kind of where it came about. And I just really feel like, if you are able to be in a place where you can write your own story, it just puts you in a better place in everything. We talk about this, whenever we talk, really. I start every single morning before my feet even hit the floor. I pray. And the very first thing that I pray every single morning is I say, thank you, God, for giving me another day on this earth. Thank you for allowing me to be alive another day. And besides being my time with my Savior, it's also my time to reset my mind and to remember to be grateful for each day. That's the importance of mindset, because when you start your day like that, you can deal with anything that comes after it. Honestly, you really can. It might seem like a challenge. It might seem hard, but you can deal with everything if you have the right mindset. And so I just want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's dig into that. We got
a lot. Yeah. And I can talk about this forever, so you're going to have to cut me off.
That's okay.
Most people don't realize that their thoughts are really habitual. We don't even really think about what we're thinking about. If that makes sense. It's often unconscious. And there's thought patterns and everything like that are really determining our life outcomes. So you have the power to choose your thoughts and to create a new reality for success, however success looks for you. That might be, we talked a little bit about Amazon business. We talked about coaching, but whatever your personal life goal or vision or where your spirit is leading you at, you can create that reality and bring that fulfillment to your life, to your business, to your family, whatever. I've had clients tell me, wow, I didn't even realize I had a choice. And, when something happens in life, we react, that's kind of just the way we're geared, I guess.
Right.
And that's really the extent of your awareness of what you're doing. But I just like to encourage people in mindset. What if you could rewrite that script? What if you could be the producer? You can be the writer. You can be the director. You can be the lead character in your life story. What would that do for you?
I love that. What if you could rewrite that script?
And a lot of times limiting thinking occurs without our even being aware of it. I've done this. And again, I've talked about, wanting to rewrite my story. There are negative thought patterns. They've become so much of a habitual thing that they're automatic. We don't even think about it. And it really makes it difficult to know when limiting thinking is even happening, because it's like, it's part of who you think you are. And that's a lie you're telling yourself. I want to say that right off the bat. One way that you become aware of holding thoughts that are holding you back is to really pay attention to your emotions and your physical reactions. That's a really good, clear indicator that, there's something going on that you might not be aware of, like your heart is beating faster, your chest is feeling tighter, or if you're ever in one of those situations. And I want you to just think of those physical reactions as kind of alarm signals that, your body is saying, hey, stop and pay attention to this. That's a signal telling you to pay attention. If you pay attention to that, you can get back on track. And those are things that are super important to this process of learning about mindset and what you can do about it. When you're experiencing a strong negative emotion like that, you need to ask yourself, what was the thought that preceded that emotion? Look for the story in your thought. And you're going to find that a lot of time that differs in fact. Ryan, you and I have talked about this before. I've shared this. A lot of people that know me and know me well look at me and they see someone that's fairly confident. And someone who has is very strong feelings about their worth. And those two things, until I started rewriting my story, were the furthest thing from the truth. I had low self-esteem, and it's like, who am I to think that I have any worth at all? Those are stories. Those are negative stories that I told myself throughout my entire life. And it wasn't until that I really identified that, and realized that it was a thought that wasn't empowering me in any way, that I was able to change that story and rewrite it a little bit. And one of the things that I learned to do was to rewrite my old thought into something new, into something that was empowering, that was going to result in a positive outcome. And that can be for your business, but it can also be for your life. It can be with your relationship with your spouse, with your relationship with your children, your relationship with your coworkers, any of those things. Just remember that you're the producer and writer of your own life story.
That's right.
And when you write the thoughts that you have to match the life that you want to have, that's when you are able to move forward and achieve the things that you want to achieve. And that new feeling is something that you really want to strive for. So if you identify the old negative feeling and you identify that by those, tightening up, heart racing, whatever, and then you tell yourself a new story, that's an empowering thought. That's a way that you are able to take your mindset and give it just that little bit of tweak, that little bit of shift, in order to be able to rewrite your story and set yourself on a new path. For me, we talked about this in 2015 when I found out that I had, the potential for this serious brain illness, and I could have had the opportunity to just, sit and veg out my life, I decided that was not an empowering thought. That was a disempowering thought.
Right.
And that I needed to change it because, I didn't want that to be my reality. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, if you have cancer and you think to yourself, well, actually, this is not true. I was just going to say, and you sit there and think to yourself, okay, I'm going to die from this. And then you suddenly rewrite your story in your mind and you say, I'm not going to die from this, that you're going to get rid of your cancer. Well, that's not always going to happen. But there are studies out there that show and prove that how we think about in our mind can impact our physiological experience. And so I started going on that path that can't happen, but actually, I can't also say that won't happen. Right. When I found out I had MS, my neurologist said the best thing that I had going for me was my attitude. And he actually would say that a lot of the positive income that I've had from my disease has been the fact that I have a good attitude, I think positive thoughts, and my body responds and doesn't have to fight against it.
The Bible says a merry heart doeth good like medicine.
That's right.
Yeah, we got 45 seconds left here.
Okay.
You have if somebody wanted to, like, you obviously you're a coach, so somebody that's just thinking, man, I want to contact Christie. I'd love for her to work with me. Do you have a way for people to reach you?
Yes. Yeah, I do. I mean, I can certainly send people to the website if we're able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and say it right now, and then I'll post in the link too. Okay.
It's ChristieHertzler.com. And yeah, you can go onto my website and certainly reach out to me through there if you have questions. I'm always more than happy to schedule just a call, just to talk and just see if what we do is something that can help you as well.
That'd be great. Christie, thanks for being on with me. Very much appreciate it. Guys, what an awesome episode talking about mindset. It's so important. You've been listening to the Streams of Income radio show. I'm your host, Ryan Rieger. Don't forget, you can get my book, Streams of Income, for free at streamsofincomeradio.com. See you in the next show.